I am so happy to be back. I know it has been a crazy hiatus, there we go, from what we normally do. But I've just been so busy. Grant has been so patient with me, but he has been keeping up the new slides, which Grant I am super, super thankful for. And what we're going to try and start doing is just a half an hour here or there as I'm still trying to get adjusted to the new job that I've switched to because I just have so much that I'm trying to do. So we're going to jump in here, and we've got our first slide here. So it's the structure deck for the Crystal Beast, which I'm pretty excited about. This card is called Bridge of the Heart. It's a continuous spell. You can only use the second and third effect of this card's name each once per turn. So, one, during your main phase, you can normal summon one Crystal Beast monster in addition to your normal summoner set, which is really good. You can only gain this effect once per turn. During your main phase, you can destroy one Crystal Beast card you control or in your hand. Ooh, that's really good. And if you do, add one Crystal Spell or Trap from your deck to your hand. And then three, if a Crystal Beast card or cards is placed in your spell and trap zone, even during the damage step, you can target one card your opponent controls and return it and this card to the hand. Ooh, Grunt, this is a pretty solid card. Go ahead and talk about how you feel about it.
So the Crystal Beast stuff has kind of been an up and down roller coaster for a lot of the fans because we're getting it in 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So which is nice. But we did not get a single new monster in this structure deck.
Oh,
Everything that's new is spell and traps. So the spells and
wow.
traps are good, but you're kind of still going to be running just Ruby, just Sapphire, just the new Rainbow Dragon, and it's not bad. It's just that it feels like Konami needs to kind of branch out on the monsters. But
Mm-hmm.
tangent aside, the spell is good. It gives you an additional normal summon, which Sapphire Pegasus is easily one of the best normal summons you're going to have in the deck. That's honestly not even the best part. The best part is that you can destroy a Crystal Beast, turn it into a spell or trap, and then add a Crystal spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So
Mm-hmm.
there's ways you can build off that. You can
Absolutely.
search out other spells. And the fact that you just get a free targeting bounce that can happen during either turn
Yeah,
is a
that's
good way to keep
amazing.
this card from getting popped. And it gives you insurance on it.
Yeah, that's just an amazing, amazing card. And yes, that does sting. I didn't realize that there were no new monsters. I've heard a lot about the spells, but yeah, that's a blow for sure.
So technically, we have a new fusion Rainbow Dragon. I just don't like counting that because it's not the Rainbow Dragons that need fixing. It's the 5 Crystal Beasts that aren't Carbuncle and Pegasus.
Uh huh. Oh, you still
But
there?
yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, go ahead.
But the decks I think are still looking pretty good. I mean, I think we discussed those. Man, it's been months. But I know that they recently revealed that the advanced Crystal Beasts are going to be ported into the game, and those are looking kind of interesting in their own way.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's more options coming on the way. I don't think it's gonna be busted, but I have seen some fun control decks being built with the new Crystal Beast spell and trap support. So
Cool.
it's
I
looking
like
pretty
it.
good.
I love it anytime people can start experimenting. That's what makes the game fun for me. Moving on to the power of the elements now. Okay, so and Grunt, this already came out, right?
Yes, this came out
Okay.
about, I believe, a month and a half ago.
Yeah. And this is definitely what this podcast is about is if you've missed something, this at least helps you to get caught up. So we've got Gem Knight Quartz here. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. First effect: if your opponent controls a monster, you can discard this card and then set one fusion continuous spell directly from your deck. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except for Gem Knight monsters. Oh, I love that they put that clause in. And then number
Hmm.
two, if this card is used as a material for fusion summon and sent to the graveyard or banished, you can add one Gem Knight monster from your graveyard to your hand, except for Gem Knight Quartz. I like this right away, Grunt, just because
Hmm.
it locks it into that archetype, and that to me is way better so it doesn't get abused in other archetypes. Because right when I saw set one fusion continuous spell, I thought of so many different decks, and I think that's good for them. Moving on to Brilliant Rose, it's a level 2 light rock effect monster. This card is always treated as a Gem Knight card. You can only use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. You can discard one Gem Knight or Melodious card. Ooh, interesting, Melodious. And special summon this card from your hand. Once per turn, you can send one Gem Knight or Melodious monster from your extra deck to the graveyard. This card's name, type, and attribute become the sent monster's original name, type, and attribute until the end phase. Ooh, that's pretty interesting. Okay, so
Hmm.
Grunt, players have already had these cards in their hand. Have either of these made a splash?
Mm, I hate to say no, but yeah, they have not done anything to my knowledge. I think there have been maybe some people experimenting. The issue is that even the standard Gem Knight decks haven't really been getting much help with these. These are nice. It's just that we'll get over their new fusion spell on the next slide
Oh,
because you've
okay.
read fusion continuous and you're like, oh, brilliant fusion, but then you remember brilliant fusion's been banned for several
Oh
years
yeah,
now.
yeah.
But being xenophobic and locking you out of anything that's not a gem knight,
Oh
it's
yeah,
not
that
bad.
limits you.
It's supposed to try and help with the splashability of Seraphonite and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but I feel like Seraphonite's just not as busted as it used to be, so I don't know. I just feel like that's just an extra thing. The Brilliant Rose isn't half bad. It's special summon. You can fodder it. You're able to send any Gem Knight or Melodious from your extra deck. I mean, the Melodious stuff is just a reference to Crystal Rose,
Uh-huh.
but
Well, there's a
yeah, the Gem Knight
Melodious
stuff's great.
card that when it hits the grave, it gives you a poly, doesn't it?
I don't
It,
know if
it's
it's from
been a
the
while since
extra
I
deck.
looked at that. I could swear there's a Melodious card. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. But there's a Melodious card out there that when it hits the grave, I thought it gave you a polymerization. I'd have to look at it again.
I
But
don't
because I've messed with that
believe.
archetype quite a bit, but that card that does that is not super strong on its own. It's almost like a brick. So I wonder if that's a way to get that back in. Maybe I'm thinking of a different effect. Um,
Maybe, but it only sends from the extra deck, so it would have to be
oh,
one of
you're
the
right. Yeah,
extra
it
deck
doesn't say
ones.
main deck. Sorry. Yep, good point. Okay.
And I'm looking at the fusion monsters for Melodious. I mean, I can't really think of like the only advantage to maybe being able to do that is that you could send Shuberta from your extra deck and then have material for Bloom Diva,
Oh, uh huh. Yeah, that's a good point. Yep.
but that's probably about it. Otherwise, I don't know. They're both nice little cards here. I don't think they're gonna make the Gem Knight strategy any better,
No.
unfortunately. But
Mm-mm.
Gem Knights have unfortunately not had the best reputation with Gem Knight burn.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Looking at the next one here, so we've got Gem Knight Lady Rose Diamond. It's a level 8 Earth Fairy Fusion monster. It requires one Gem Knight monster plus one Fairy monster, so pretty easy to summon. The first time a Gem Knight monster you control would be destroyed by card effect during each opponent's turn, it is not. When your opponent activates a monster effect during your turn, quick effect, you can banish one Gem Knight card from your graveyard, then target one face up card your opponent controls and destroy it. Yeah, I mean it's all right, but the targeting, if it didn't target, that would definitely be better.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the destruction effect's not a hard once per turn. But even th-
Oh,
but even then, I'm not really sure if I don't know. The fact that it has to be face up too means that you can't use it to pop your opponent's back row, which I mean you could pop face up back row, but you can't
ooh.
against a trap deck, you can't pop
If
traps and
that's not a hard once per turn, man, that changes that card.
it does. I guess it depends on what you're facing though, because I feel like
Yes.
most decks would have a way around a
Oh
generic
yeah.
pop because it doesn't have much protection itself aside from the you know, once once by card effect. Not even
Mm-hmm.
battle though. So like if your opponent just summons something big enough, they can just run it over. So
Yeah. I
I
mean,
don't know.
it would protect against like a Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit effect because it would, unless your opponent has two in the hand. I mean, it's going to be safe from that because it won't be destroyed the first time. But you know, it could definitely be impermed. So there's lots of
I
ways to handle this.
The way I look at this is it's 2022. They could have released this way back when Brilliant Fusion was a thing, and I don't
Yep.
think this card would have seen play back then either. It's
Mm-hmm.
nice, but yeah, I don't think it really serves much of a purpose because if you're waiting for your opponent to activate a ton of effects, you're probably not in a good position.
Oh, for sure. I'm never trying to play like that. I'm always trying to play, how do I wipe your board? You know, like that's always
Mm,
my thinking. How do
exactly.
I disrupt your negations and then I go ahead and get my game going? Yeah, so that's really interesting. The next one here is the fusion you were talking about earlier, Scatter Fusion. It's a continuous spell. You can only use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. If your opponent controls a monster, you can fusion one non rock Gem Knight fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your deck as the fusion material. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except for Gem Knight monsters. When this card leaves the field, destroy that monster or monsters. Woo! Steep.
Hmm.
That's a steep one. I mean, like if this goes, that changes quite a bit here. So it again, I like that it locks you in, so it's not going to become overpowered. So that's a good thing. But I agree with you. This all feels late. I mean,
It
you know,
is.
gem nights were a thing. What 2, 3 years ago? I mean, it's been a while. When you had the
It
burn strategy.
I'm pretty sure that they were defunct by the time Master Rule 5 was a thing. I'm
Yes.
pretty sure Gem Knight OTK slash FTK was pretty much a Master Rule 4 thing when they got Phantom Quartz.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is definitely. I mean, it's fun to mess around with, but with how fast the gaming is and all these other decks that are out there, I mean, this is just screaming casual to me for sure.
Some of the
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
pre-existing Gem Knights, I was just gonna say real quick, some of the pre-existing Gem Knight stuff that wasn't even banned. I mean, I feel like this stuff just isn't really. It doesn't feel like it came out in this year. It feels like they're just 5 years late to the
Mm,
archetype.
yeah, I felt that way before with other archetypes where it's like, hey, I like this card, but why didn't you give this to the engine sooner? That would have been really
Hmm.
nice. Like, for example, Ghost Tricks. Why didn't we receive that Link monster from day one, basically?
You're not
I mean,
wrong.
there's just certain archetypes that you have to keep that going, especially if you know there's fan support for it, which I think Gem Knights, there's been plenty of fan support. So it's a little
I
surprising.
think I think it's a crime we didn't get the Ghost Trick Link until after it didn't matter because
Yes.
Master Rule 4 was already done.
Yes. I know, I'm right there with you. That was one of my favorite, it's still one of my favorite decks of all time. And it's like, man, were they late to the party here? Moving on. So I want to say, make sure I'm saying this right. Vernalizer? Is that right?
I believe it's Vernalizer. I
Vernalizer?
think
Okay. Vernalizer, Fairy of the Hills and Blooms. Guys, I haven't even looked at Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, so this is all brand new to me. All right, so it says here you can use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. You can discard this card and one other monster, or Vernalizer Fairy card and add one Vernalizer Fairy card from your deck to your hand, except for Vernalizer Fairy of the Hills and Blooms. Then you can special one Earth monster from your graveyard, but you cannot activate monster effects for the rest of this turn except Earth monsters. Ooh, yes, Konami, you're finally listening. Locking things more in to where it's not going to be crazy splashable. All right, so Vernalizer fairy monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. Oh, that's good. That's pretty good.
hmm
Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next one. Vernalizer Fairy of the Forest and Awakening. So I like this. So is this how they work? There's like different geography names to each of them, Grant?
You'll see in the next pack, or next pack, the next slide.
Uh huh.
They've kind of got this interesting theme where we've got fairies,
Uh
and
huh.
then we've got. You'll see in the next slide.
Oh, sweet, sweet. All right, so this one, it's level 4 too. You can use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. You can discard this card and one other monster or Vernalizer fairy card. Send from your deck to the graveyard one earth monster that can be normal, summoned, or set. Then you can special one earth monster with a different name from your graveyard. Oh, which is good because you with the pitch effect. But you
Hmm.
cannot activate monster effects for the rest of this turn except earth monsters. And then the second effect, you can target one Vernalizer fairy monster you control, and its current attack becomes doubled until the end of this turn. And right now I'm seeing very low defense or attack here. Defense is decent, but the attack looks very small. So be curious to see if that gets beefed. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of staying there. Then we have Vernalizer Fairy of the Flowers and Fields. So yeah, definitely going with different like areas. Kind of cool. You can only
Hmm.
use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. You can discard this card and one other monster or Vernalizer Fairy card. Add one Earth monster from your graveyard to your hand, except for Vernalizer Fairy of the Flowers and Fields. Then you can special summon one Earth monster from your graveyard, but you cannot activate monster effects for the rest of this turn except monster or Earth monsters. Ooh, and see, I love this on this one too. Your opponent cannot target Vernalizer Fairy monsters you control with card effects. Ooh, that's really good. Really, really good.
Hmm.
Next one here, Vernalizer Fairy of Mountains and Melting Snow. And I really think that there's going to be people who dig the art just looking at this so far. It's a level 3 Earth. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. You can discard this card and one other monster or Vernalizer Fairy card, draw a card. Then you can special summon one Earth monster from your graveyard, but you cannot activate monster effects for the rest of this turn except Earth monsters. You can target one Vernalizer monster you control. It can make a second attack during each battle phase this turn. Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm going to run through. Well, you know what? That's the monsters. I was about to say if we had more monsters,
Hmm.
I'd run through
Hmm.
them.
There
Okay.
will be another
Oh, there
monster,
is
but
another
this is a
monster. Okay, I'm going to skip to the
so
monster.
I will just quickly say I organize these by sets. So the next couple slides
Ah,
cover Power of the Elements, and then the next core set has a few more support cards we'll cover in a bit.
that are coming up. Okay, well let's hit this card coming up because this looks awesome. So Vera, the Vernalizer Fairy Goddess. It's a level 8 Earth Fairy. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. One, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, take control of it, and if you do, it becomes Earth. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target one Earth monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Once per turn, while you control 5 or more Earth monsters, you can negate any monster effect activated by your opponent, and if you do, you get to destroy the monster. Oh, okay, Grunt.
Hmm.
First of all, my first impression, it gives me UA vibes, where with UA it was all about you had to return a card to the hand, you got a special summon. This one, you have to send a card to the grave, you get a special summon. I like that. It's very easy to understand. I like the protection that's built in. What are your thoughts here?
So I personally like the idea of this deck. It does work generically with other Earth cards, and there are other Earth fairies out there, other Earth monsters that do synergize with the attribute. So I do see some of the complaints. Some people would probably bring up where it's like, yeah, it's a little overbalanced. Vera's this big boss monster, but she only really has the steal effect, which isn't a quick effect. She has the
Mm-hmm.
quick effect to bring something back, and honestly, her third effect is cool, and it is not a hard once per turn, but it's
Oh
a
my
soft once per turn.
gosh.
It's a
Oh
soft
my
once per turn.
gosh.
So you could technically get multiple copies of her out for multiple negates, but I don't know. I feel like this deck might still get a little more support down the line after Darkwing Blast, which we're getting Darkwing Blast in about a month,
Uh huh.
unless they
Yeah,
push
not
it
too far
back.
away. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's not going to be doing anything crazy, but it
No.
can be ran as kind of an engine because any Earth monster can be resurrected from the graveyard multiple times with these guys, and
Yeah.
some of their support's pretty solid. I could see someone building this for fun. It's not going to be an expensive deck, in my opinion, just because it's not overly broken or anything.
Yeah, and I like that you have some cards here that can go with it as support. So you have
Mm-hmm.
Thrawn, the discipled angel, where if a monster that was originally an Earth Fairy is sent from your hand or field to the graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand, and then you can only use this effect. You can only use this effect of Thrawn, the discipled angel, once per turn. That definitely would fit with what this is
Mm-hmm.
trying to do. So yeah, it's a good start, and I like when I see engines that have good starts. It's fun. Let's look at some of the spells and traps now. So we've got Flower Crown of the Vernalizer Fairy. It's a continuous spell. Earth monsters you control are treated as Vernalizer Fairy monsters. Oh, that's terrific. That
Mm-hmm.
supports everything. And then two, once per turn, if a Vernalizer Fairy monster in your hand would discard itself and one other card to activate its effect, you can make it only discard itself instead. Oh my goodness. Yes, that's pretty good. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
calendar rotation of the Vernalizer Fairy. It's a normal trap. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. Target one Vernalizer Fairy monster in your graveyard. Either add it to your hand or special summon it. During your opponent's turn, if you have no cards in your hand except during the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon as many Vernalizer and Fairy monsters with different names as possible from your graveyard, but return them to the hand during the end phase. Ooh, that's interesting. Okay, next one. Vernalizer Fairy and Flower Buds. It's a normal trap as well. You can only activate one card with this card's name per turn. Target face up cards your opponent controls up to the number of Earth monsters special summoned from the graveyard with different names. Return Earth monsters you control to the hand, equip to the number of targets, and if you do, return those targets to the hand. Oh boy. Okay, Grunt. That's looking pretty good there.
Mm-hmm.
I like the continuous spell. I see the calendar of the rotation part having some effect, but it's awfully situational because usually you do have cards in the hand. And then I do think there's definitely uses here for flower buds. All right, what do you like? What do you dislike?
So I do kind of like how they, even though they are discarding themselves and another card, they are still kind of generating advantage because they're going to be able to bring back one of the bodies, whether it's themselves, what they pitch,
Uh
or
huh.
something else you pitched. So you're getting at least one card from that. And if they're searching or if they're, summoning another monster or drawing a card, I think the only one that doesn't really help is Vernalizer Fairy of Flowers and Fields, just because you're adding an earth from your grave to your hand, which I guess is kind of nice if you're recovering another Vernalizer Fairy that got destroyed or something, but I think that's the most situational of the
Mm-hmm.
main deck monsters right now. I mean,
Yeah.
because you've got the bear here who gives you a free draw at the very least and gives you grave resources, and the other two just help you search and pitch. So I don't know, I like them. The fact that continuous spell makes it where you're essentially able to just, one for one special summon the monster essentially and get its effect off. It's nice. The trap clearly understands that this deck might run through the hand pretty quick,
Yes. Yes.
and then you're and it's a deck that doesn't mind the self bouncing in fairy and flower buds because you're able to bounce back your own vernalizer fairies and essentially get the resource loop going again
Oh,
while
yeah.
interrupting your opponent. So it's
That
not
that's pretty good.
busted.
Yeah.
It's not busted, but kind of like Melfi, it's got a clearer play strategy.
That's so funny you said that. That's what I was thinking as well too. This has Melfi vibes where if you sleep on Melfi, it'll tear you up. And it's so
Hmm.
you got to be ready for that. Yeah, you might be thinking cute little bunnies here, but those cute little bunnies put in some work if they have the right cards in hand and get a board going. I got to see that with different builds that I've ran into. So yeah, I definitely agree. There's some nice things here. Looking at some of the other support coming up in Darkwing Blast now, you mentioned Flower Bloom of the Vernalizing or Vernalizer Fairy, and it's a field
Hmm.
spell, so that's exciting for these people who are already picking up these cards. You can only use the second and third effect of this card's name each once per turn. One, all your monsters you control gain 1,000 attack. Oh, while you control five or more Earth monsters. Okay. You can banish one Vernalizer Fairy and Flower Buds from your hand or graveyard. Special summon one Vera, the Vernalizer Fairy Goddess, from your deck. Oh, good gosh. From the deck.
Hmm.
That's amazing. And if a Vernalizer Fairy monster is a special summoned from your graveyard, target one monster on the field in either graveyard and return it to the hand. Ooh, that's spicy. Okay, there's good stuff there. Oh, I didn't see there was another card. Sorry. And then we have another
One
monster.
more.
It's a level 3 Vernalizer Fairy of Seedlings and Haze. You can only use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. You can discard this card and add in one other monster or Vernalizer Fairy card. Add one Earth Fairy monster from your deck to your hand, except for Vernalizer Fairy of Seedlings and Haze. Then you can special summon one Earth monster from your graveyard. Also, you cannot activate monster effects for the rest of this turn, except for monsters. And then all monsters on the field lose 600 attack, except for Vernalizer Fairy monsters. Okay, that's needed. That idea that every monster is going to lose 600, that at least gives it a chance to possibly get over things. Okay,
Hmm.
so Grunt, I love the field spell. The fact that it gets you out
Me
your
too.
boss monster is huge. And then I really like the targeting ability too, because so many cards they're trying to use their effect in the grave. You wait for them to use it. You chain, or no, you can't chain. It's not a quick effect. Man, that would have been awesome if it's could. But you can still wipe some of that grave resource sometimes. Pretty solid. And I do like this seedlings and haze card because it does
Hmm.
help with that reduction, which they desperately need with having so low of attack. Other thoughts that you have?
I mean, the nice thing is that even if it's not as good for the archetype as, what was its name? I think it was Hills and Blooms, the first one that searches any Vernalizer Fairy card.
Yes.
This does kind of open up generic searching because it can technically still add any member of the archetype, and it does open up the potential for other Earth Fairies, which there's a handful of them. Thrawn, I think, is the biggest example as a free body that you can just throw on the field.
Uh huh.
Or you could literally use seedlings and haze to search out hills and bloom, so you're able to get another search off of a search. So I don't know, there's a resource loop here, and I feel like you give this deck a few more cards and you could probably see some rogue success with it if you're able to find the right cards, because I feel like with how there's that one spell that turns all earths into vernalizers, I'm fairly certain that there's a certain combo you could execute in the future where, oh, all this protection, the fact that you can make it double, make it attack twice. I'm sure there's going to be something in the future that you can abuse with this deck.
Absolutely. Grunt, are there any Xyz cards? Link monsters? Like, is there anything else that is coming up that we've missed?
No, what you see is what you get. Vernalizers right now do not have an extra deck strat. Their entire strategy is built upon flooding the field with earth monsters, which I guess is kind of fitting. You could run generic earth support, probably like Mrs. Radiant, if you really have like field room on the field to kind of buff your attack more. Or maybe the Earth Charmer. I'm not really sure, but you could run some links here or there. But again, with like Vera, again, if you look at the boss monster,
Uh
it's
huh.
all about just flooding the field, having a ton of monsters, bouncing them back to hand so you can recycle your resources. And yeah, I don't know. I like this control strategy. It's not amazing, but it's not bad.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. This would be something I would suggest to people. Bring it to your local, have some fun with it. Know that it's not gonna, be super busted, but it's going to be something that you can definitely have fun with, and you can mess around with it. It's probably going to be budget. I don't imagine this being very expensive. Um,
I haven't heard anybody talking about the original Vernalizer stuff, and I know Darkwing Blast still hasn't been revealed. We've got a month, but if they make any of this stuff greater than an Ultra, which I think is already pushing it, then I think Konami is running out of room because I don't think anyone's crazy hyped for
oh
any of the
no.
Vernalizer stuff
Yeah,
coming out in
yeah.
Darkwing Blast.
I mean, this is the first I've heard about it, and I've loosely been still involved with things, but I didn't even know this was on the radar. So, yeah, so very interesting for sure. Um, that is going to do it for us, though. We've hit that half an hour grunt.
Alrighty.
Again, guys, our plan is to try and get more news in. We're going to cover something in a half an hour time, just because I'm still adjusting to my job quite a bit, but I am starting to find more free time where I can get back into Yu-Gi-Oh and talk about some things. So it's really nice to be able to do that again. So Grunt, I really, really appreciate all the time you've put into these slides. You do an awesome job making it all flow super well together.
Yeah, no problem. Always glad to lend a hand. And I mean, hey, just let me know when you got time next, and as long as I'm available, we can try to get another half hour out.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks again, and we'll see you next time.